grieving hostages are not only rehabilitating, but they're living life again, eating food they have dreamed of, spending time with the people they have missed the most, and recovering from the enormous trauma they endured for 2 years. It also marks exactly 1 month since Hamas first violated the ceasefire deal. As they did not return all 28 of our deceased hostages, they were held in captivity. Let's not forget, the terror group had 72 hours to search for the remains of our deceased hostage 1 month ago, and 1 month later today, the remains of 4 of our hostages are still being held by terrorists inside of the Gaza Strip. We are demanding for them to be returned home immediately. Their names are Meni Goddard, Ran Gvili, Dror Or, and Thai national Sutiask Rintalak. Remember their names, know their stories, and include them in your news stories. The Prime Minister reminds everyone at all times in the Knesset, at the United Nations, in Congress, and in the White House, in media interviews, and during his meetings in his office, that our hostages are still there in Gaza, and we will not stop until each and every one of them is brought home. There are media reports claiming right now that Hamas and Islamic Jihad are preparing to return the body of one of our 4 hostages later this evening. I can share with you that Israel has not received any official notification of this yet, but we are prepared 24/7 to receive the remains of our hostages. We will know only it is one of our hostages' remains once it is transferred to the Forensic Institute and is confirmed with proper identification. Israel is continuing to enforce the ceasefire agreement against Hamas terrorists every single day. On Wednesday, a terrorist was identified crossing the yellow line near Khan Yunis and approaching our IDF forces. Following the identification, our IDF soldiers eliminated the terrorist as it posed an immediate threat to our soldiers. Additionally, on Wednesday, while IDF troops were operating in the area of Rafah to dismantle underground terror infrastructure, all in accordance with the ceasefire, they identified 4 armed terrorists on the eastern side of the yellow line within Israeli operational control. Our forces acted and struck and eliminated 3 of the armed terrorists. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it abundantly clear Israel will work to defend all of its borders and will do so independently to protect our nation from any threat. Prime Minister Netanyahu will make independent decisions for this country, for all of its citizens. And Kogat announced today that about 250 Gazans in need of medical treatment and their caregivers and Gazans with dual citizenship exited Gaza on Wednesday through the Kerem Shalom crossing to the Allenby Bridge crossing and the Ramon Airport. Also, the Zikim crossing is now open for the entry of humanitarian aid trucks into the Gaza Strip. And the aid will be transferred by the United Nations and international organizations following thorough security inspections by the Land Crossings Authority of the Ministry of Defense. Hundreds of trucks carrying food, water, fuel, gas, medicines, medical equipment, tents, and shelter supplies continues to enter the Gaza Strip every single day in coordination with the UN, international organizations, donor countries, and the private sector. I'll now take a few questions. So the first question is from Dan Williams, Bloomberg. Question for the briefing. Is Israel preparing part of the yellow zone for renewed Palestinian habitation, even in the absence of a Hamas disarmament and ouster in the Gaza Strip? If so, where, for how many civilians, and with what end date? So Israel will maintain overall security control of the Gaza Strip, and of course all details in the 20-point plan will be followed. Israel will continue to uphold this 20-point plan. Alexander Cornwell from Reuters. All right, this is a very lengthy question. U.S. Secretary of State last night expressed concern about the recent wave of settler violence in the West Bank. Overnight, Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir condemned recent settler attacks, according to Israeli police. 3 of the 4 individuals were arrested on Tuesday. Does the government unequivocally condemn acts of violence committed by Israeli citizens against Palestinians in the West Bank? So let me tell you this on Judea and Samaria. Any incidents of lawlessness are dealt with to the full extent of the law. The IDF operates under strict ethical guidelines and international law in Judea and Samaria. Commander of the Central Command made it clear that the IDF does not accept any situation in which lawbreakers harm property and civilians. Jewish communities are under attack, and they are oftentimes conveniently overlooked in the media. Israel has experienced a wave of terror perpetrated by individuals, many of them very young, inspired by vicious incitement in Palestinian social and traditional media, urged on by the Palestinian leadership. The Palestinian Authority systematically rewards people for attacking and terrorizing Jews, and the more serious offenses, the more money they receive. The abhorrent pay-for-slay initiative by the PA has continued, and the policy must stop, as it drives and it fuels terror against Jews. Now, as part of the ceasefire, Israel released 250 Palestinian terrorists serving life sentences. The PA paid these same terrorists, many of them from Hamas, and they have made a collective of $70 million. 9 major attacks took place in September, 8 in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria region, and one side, Israel. The security services were able to foil 105 major terror attacks. 9 people were killed and 24 injured in the September terror attacks. I'd also like to point to you more information on the ground. When it comes to terrorism from Judea and Samaria, I can tell you that Israel's policy is that there will be no safe haven for terrorists in Judea and Samaria. The IDF and our security services continue to operate vigorously to foil terror attack activity in the region, and we will reach anyone who harms the state of Israel and its citizens and our soldiers. The terrorism against Israeli citizens is the result of ongoing incitement directed by Iran and Hamas, encouraging attacks against civilians and their murder and attempting to ignite additional arenas. Let's also bring everyone up to speed about the events of today that came out. Let's talk about the reality. Shin Bet and IDF announced today with the Israeli police that they dismantled a Hamas terrorist stronghold where terrorists operated in the Bethlehem area, planning to carry out shooting attacks against security forces and Israeli civilians. More than 50 terrorists were apprehended in 15 different operations that took place. One of the terrorist cells was in advanced stages of operational readiness, preparing to carry out attacks within the immediate time frame. Now, thwarting this type of terrorism prevented significant terror attacks from happening, which could have had a devastating toll on our soldiers and our citizens. Those are all the questions that I see right now. If anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to reach out to the Prime Minister's office. Thanks so much for joining us today.